The night the prairie caught fire. I'll never forget the sound. It wasn't thunder, it wasn't the wind. It was deeper, hungrier. A roar that seemed to roll across the earth itself like the land had caught its breath and was ready to exhale in flames. That was the night the prairie caught fire. The night we had to run for our very lives. We had had weeks without rain. The grass was dry as straw, the air hot and restless. Even as a boy, I could sense the tension. Every creak of the windmill, every gust of dust down the road seemed to whisper of danger. But I didn't understand how close that danger was. Not until Pa stepped out after supper, sniffed the air, and froze. "Smoke," he said quietly. And in Pa's voice, I heard something I'd rarely heard before: fear. We were finishing up the evening chores. Annie had already been tucked into bed, and Ma was folding laundry by the fire. I was stacking wood near the stove when Pa's words fell heavy over the room. He came back inside, face set like stone. "Get her up," he told Ma, nodding toward Annie's room. "We don't have time." I ran to the window and looked out. At first I saw nothing, just the wide, endless prairie fading into night. But then my eyes caught it, a dull orange glow. Low and mean, crawling along the horizon. "Pa?" I whispered, my throat dry. He didn't answer. He was already pulling down the harness, shouting for me to help with the horses. That was when I knew. This wasn't like a storm you could wait out. This wasn't a danger that might pass by. The fire was coming for us. The horses were skittish, their eyes rolling white as Pa and I tried to hitch them to the wagon. They smelled it too, the smoke drifting in sharp and bitter. The sky over the ridge was turning red, the glow brighter now. I could hear it, a faint crackle that grew louder with each breath. The sound of grass, miles wide, catching fire all at once. Inside, Ma had wrapped Annie in a quilt, her little face pale with confusion and fear. Ma's lips moved in silent prayer as she carried her out to the wagon. Pa threw only a few things in the bed of the wagon: a sack of beans, 2 water jugs, blankets, and his Bible. Nothing else mattered. Then the wind shifted, and suddenly the crackle became a roar. We climbed into the wagon just as sparks began to float down around us. Pa snapped the reins and the horses lunged forward. The wagon jolted, wheels digging into the hard earth, and we were off, racing across the prairie with the fire at our heels. I turned once, just once, and wished I hadn't. The horizon was alive, rolling with flames taller than trees, racing toward us like a living beast. The fire didn't creep, it sprinted, leaping forward with every gust of wind. The smoke choked us, made my eyes sting. Annie whimpered and Ma pulled her close, whispering comfort while her own eyes brimmed with tears. "Keep low," Pa shouted. "Cover your faces." The wagon bounced and rattled over the uneven ground, every jolt threatening to throw us out. Sparks fell on the canvas cover, and Pa shouted at me to slap them out with a blanket. My arm shook as I beat at the glowing embers, terrified one spark might set the wagon ablaze. The fire was faster than I thought possible. It leapt ahead, flames dancing and spinning as if mocking our desperate flight. I heard Pa mutter, "Lord, give us strength," his eyes never leaving the road ahead. Suddenly the wagon lurched sideways, one wheel dipping into a hidden ditch. We nearly overturned. Ma screamed, clutching Annie tight. Pa hauled the reins hard, the horses whinnying in panic as they scrambled to right the wagon. For a moment I thought we'd lost, but somehow the wagon steadied, the horses pulled forward, and we were still running, still alive. Through the smoke, Pa spotted something, a patch of bare ground near the riverbank, a stretch where the grass had been grazed down by cattle. If we could reach it, the fire would have nothing to feed on. But it meant one last desperate sprint. "Hold on!" Pa shouted. His voice was raw, torn between command and prayer. The horses screamed as he drove them harder, hooves pounding the earth. The wagon rattled so violently I thought the wheels would splinter apart. Flames leapt closer, sparks showering around us, the heat so fierce I felt it burn my skin. And then Ma's voice rose, clear and strong, cutting through the roar of the fire. "Nearer, my God, to thee!" Her hymn wrapped around us like a shield. Annie's sobs quieted. My heart steadied, and even Pa, with his jaw clenched, seemed to draw strength from it. We burst into the clearing just as the fire closed in behind us. Pa leapt from the wagon, doused blankets in water, and threw them over us. We huddled together, faces pressed to the damp fabric as the fire roared past on both sides. The heat was unbearable, the sound deafening. Sparks hissed and died on the wet blankets. The horses screamed in terror, but Pa held them steady with a grip like iron. And then, silence. When we finally lifted the blankets, the world was unrecognizable. The prairie stretched before us, blackened and smoldering. Ash drifted through the air like snow. Trees stood like skeletons against the moonlit sky. But we were alive. Ma pulled Annie close, kissing her hair. Pa laid a hand on my shoulder, his grip trembling. His face was streaked with soot, his eyes red. But I'd never seen him look stronger. Neighbors' voices carried faintly through the smoky night, some shouting names, others singing hymns of thanksgiving. Slowly we realized we were not the only ones who had survived. Pa opened his Bible, the pages smudged with ash, and read by lantern light. Solemn, when thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time that night, I let myself believe we were safe. That night changed me. I learned that the prairie was as dangerous as it was beautiful. That fire could take everything in a single breath. But I also learned something greater, that faith, courage, and family could stand even against the flames. Pa's strength, Ma's song, God's mercy, they carried us through. We lost fields, fences, and hay. But we kept what mattered most, each other. And as we sat together in the charred silence of that night, I knew we'd been spared for a reason. Next time, I'll tell you about the spring when the river flooded so high it swallowed whole wagons, and how Pa found a way to cross when no one else dared. It's a story about courage, invention, and the stubborn faith of a man who wouldn't let a raging river stop him. But that's a story for another fire. And if you've not yet heard the tale of he risked everything and defied death to save a friend, well, you'll want to check that one out. Because here, on Prairie Stories, every tale is about survival, family, and the God who never leaves us, even in the fire.